And both best multimedia story. I want you to talk about this a little bit. We chatted before the tape started that this award is based on the article that you wrote back in the spring, and it was about the Fairchild 911 call.
Correct.
If I remember, what made that so significant was that it wasn't the 911 call itself, it was the comments people left at the end of that story that, for me, was carried the most significance.
And it's one of the things that I'm so proud of with Mesquite Local News. Again, this is an award for a topic that I'm sad that this is what we won for.
Yeah, we all are.
It's such a tragic situation.
Yeah.
But the uplifting part of this is one of the things that Mesquite Local News accomplished, particularly our website. And that was, the website was always my first love. And it was Cindy's first love. And the thing that made it so special wasn't like your traditional print newspaper where you write a story, you put it on the presses, you put it on the trucks, throw it in the racks, and you're giving a sermon from the mount. The thing that I love about the online version is news, particularly when we were doing it strong with Mesquite Local News, news has become so interactive.
Right.
We will put a story out, the people will respond, the people will say how they feel about it. In some instances, they will share information we weren't privy to. And in some instances, they can say things that we were precluded from saying because, of liability issues and some other things. But it was such an interactive, and especially at that time, I think it was an opportunity for people to have their say and to vent a little bit and to share their versions of grief. And sometimes grief takes the form of, everybody wants to be Sherlock Holmes. And this story in particular was an amazing example of that, because that story was about, we had the story, and then we had the actual audio clip that we had obtained from the Mesquite Police Department. It was the actual 911 call of Donna calling in to report what she was going to do. And we played it uncut, we played it without any filters, without tinkering with it, and so the people listened, and what they discovered was what it said in the official police report that we had reported was not what people were hearing.
I remember that.
And people were making comments, wait a minute, I didn't hear what the police said, this is what I heard. And because that started gaining momentum, that's an example of the power of interactive news, because the police department, it was such an influence, and it wasn't, we didn't do it, the people did it.
Yes.
The people brought up that, hey, this doesn't sound right, there's something not right here. The police went back, they paid to have a professional forensic translator listen to it and actually determine that what the people said she was saying was what was really being said. So again, the award comes with my name on it, but that, what made that award really special was that it was the people of Mesquite who really drove that particular story, and actually they had a hand in setting the record straight.
Yes, I remember that, and I thought it was fascinating. I know with my news site, when I was part of your editorship at the Mesquite Local, we always got a lot of criticism about comments. They are not bloggers, by the way.
Thank you. Did you hear that, City Council? They're not bloggers.
And that was all. I mean, I don't know if we ever went anywhere that we didn't hear criticism about the commenters. But to me, that was such an integral part of the story, became part of the story. A lot of times I didn't want to read the comments, didn't agree with them, didn't want to read them. But that has become what you just said, a large part of the interactiveness that people have available now with the web. So I think I'm just going to give you an opportunity here. You almost just did it, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to say anything you want to say about the commenters that you couldn't say when you were part of as an editor.
The things that I would say most about the commenters, I actually have said, and I've said it repeatedly. And Cindy Delaney, she was the one who really captured the essence of what we were about as a newspaper. And the comments, they truly emphasized that. And that's the fact that we were Mesquite's newspaper, which meant Mesquite Local News wasn't me, the editor, it wasn't me, the writer, it wasn't Cindy doing the layouts. It wasn't the people in our office, although everyone in our office had an amazing contribution to what we accomplished. It was the people of Mesquite. They're the ones who, they responded to it. They were the ones who embraced what we tried to do. And believe me, we met a lot of resistance. And the only thing that kept us going was the fact there were so many people out there saying, don't give up, keep at it, don't let the bastards get you down. And that was very rewarding. And that's a lot of the reason why we continued to push as hard as we did, because the people of this community really supported us in a lot of ways. And for the commenters, it is probably the best thing to happen to news in probably 100 years. Probably dating back to when we first started using the press. The fact that people are able to have a say, are able not just to read. They're not passive receptors. They are part of the story. They're responding. They're telling you how they feel. And that's the thing I kept trying to tell some of the people at City Hall over the years was, don't denigrate these people. Number one, they're your people. These are your constituents. You should get on your knees and kiss the feet of every person who makes a comment on a news story, because you're getting something that the old and the previous politicians from years gone by never had. They always had to wing it. They always said, well, I think this is what the people want, or I'm going to make the best guess that I'm doing the people's will. Because of those comments, there was never a question. This is what the people want. And you ignore it at your own peril.
Yes.
And unfortunately, there was a lot of peril going on because they weren't listening to what the people had to say. And so I'm so proud of this community that they embraced that. And they commented and they participated. And that's one of the things I've always said about Mesquite that's amazing about this town. We're not a passive kind of town. People get involved.
Yes, they do.
And for the fact that people got involved with the stories and shared information and shared their perspectives, that was something that I don't know how the old newspaper people did it without that kind of feedback. I mean, when you get a letter to the editor, you're lucky if you get 5 in a week. We get 5 on a bad story. Let alone the good stories or the really the high impact stories. We get hundreds of comments.
Yes.
And that helped keep us between the rails as well, because if people thought that we were starting to veer a little bit off, or that we were going too far in one direction or another, they had no compunction in telling us. And it was great because, again, and we learned this after the 2007 election, sometimes even in the newspaper business we operate in a little bit of a vacuum as far as we're always getting input from our circle of influence, which is the people who like us and our advertisers, right, and the people who read us. And so we hear from our friends and say, oh, you're doing a great job. To get anonymous posts. I know there's one council member in particular who really hates this anonymous thing, but I think it's the most powerful thing we do in the American society, and that's the fact that you don't have to put your business at risk, your family at risk, your personal life at risk. Not that anybody's going to go out and whack one of our commenters, but...
Oh, I know a few elected officials that would like to. Yeah. Come on, Morris.
But people are able to really have their say, and they're able to say it with the vehemence and the passion that they might otherwise camouflage if they were not speaking anonymously. And the fact that people were able to say what they really felt and were able to give their interpretations of some of our news stories, it really made the difference, and I think helped make us a better newspaper and helped make this a better community. So again, if you're asking me my one thing to say, I would say thank you to the people of Mesquite. Thank you for contributing. Thank you for writing, and obviously thank you for reading. But they are the ones who really made Mesquite Local News what it became.